The two Pablos. I walked around the Picasso Museum in true awe, the distorted people showcasing a much more realistic representation of humanity than many impressionists, at least in my mind. I've always adored Picasso. The harsh, jagged line for noses and oblong eyes strike a chord in me. I took steps forward and back, dancing on plea-eyed toes with two friends, Trudy Lou, of course, and Pablo, a businessman who lived in Barcelona. It was a true juxtaposition, not just of the art, but the people there. Pablo and I talked about politics. I told him I knew absolutely everything about his ethical ideals from one simple fact. He was a Colombian living in Barcelona. He raised an eyebrow, and I explained to him that that meant he was a capitalist. I spat the word like the dirty insult it was intended to be. I told him he was here from a poor South American country and he was here. Most people who travel from third world countries are in that 1% we all secretly wish we were part of, because truth be told, it is the most exclusive of all clubs, and entrance can only ever be granted to a select few. And they are the gatekeepers, the rule makers, the ones who press the buttons and twist the keys. He chuckled and tried to explain why capitalism was superior, and I retorted with Marxist comments that panicked Trudy, who hates controversy, and seemingly amused our Colombian friend. I'm actually much more open about my political ideologies than I would have been years ago. I was a 16-year-old nerd who sat in high school libraries and read the Communist Manifesto with wide-eyed wonder, who years later walked the streets of Berlin and played card games about communist kangaroos and felt enlightened. Nowadays I try and enter debates with a more liberal mind. I think it was South America that opened my eyes to this. It's hard to step inside someone else's shoes. In fact, my uncle, the smartest man I know, had told me when I cried to him about friends who I didn't feel empathised with my ideals. I didn't really understand what it was like to be anyone else, besides an upper-middle-class Australian female. I mean, I too was travelling the globe, a luxury not afforded to everyone. I had the luxury of an education and I had the luxury of independence, for I wasn't dependent on my parents for financial support. I'd never really seen this as a blessing before I visited South America. I realised that with financial independence came a freedom to act as you wanted, to spend the money you earn in what you desired, and therefore also to think as you desired. I vocalised this to Trudy long after we left Pablo. Pablo gave himself to us that day, telling us his experience of Barcelona and his perception of Picasso.